So, Jedi Survivor launched in a sorry state. Everyone on PC has had issues with it, and I'm no exception. But I want to look past that and look to see why reviews have given it a lot of praise. I want to talk about Jedi Survivor's world design and its combat mechanics, and give my opinion and some thoughts on those, as well as what I think could be changed about them from the first 10 hours I've put into the game so far. But first, I have to acknowledge the bantha in the room. I don't want to talk about Jedi Survivor's performance all that much, because it feels like beating a dead horse by now. You've already probably seen a bunch of videos and reviews on Star Wars Jedi Survivor talking about how horrible the game's performance is, especially on PC. The low FPS count, the bugs, the glitches, all of that. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the mechanics and the story more than the performance, because there are so many different factors and variables that go into the performance side of games. Graphics cards, CPU, RAM, optimization, what engine you're using, etc. The little that I will say is that I've bounced from 15 FPS to 65 FPS. I've been averaging 30 to 40 FPS through most of my time playing the game. Yeah, it's not performing all that well, and it's got a lot of issues in that performance department. Has it taken away my enjoyment of the game? Yeah, a good bit, but it's more of an annoyance than anything. But that's about it for what I want to say on the performance of the game, because there are people who are better at talking about performance and showing the performance of a game than I am. So let's talk a little bit about the story and the characters of Jedi Survivor instead. So I'm not super far into Jedi Survivor. I've gone through Kobo the first time. I went to Jeddah, did the little bit of stuff there, and I went to Kobo's moon, and now I'm back on Kobo again. That's about as far as I've gotten. And with the story, I still really like these characters. I think they're well written and they're growing from Fallen Order. I know I'm not super far into the game, but that first conversation with Grease and the banter on Coruscant between all of the characters there, and the talking with Marin and Seer, it feels really good. And I look forward to getting farther into the game and seeing where they take the story and what types of characters and relationships they introduce. But I don't want to focus on the story all that much, because I would rather have other people experience it if you're going to play it. Let's talk more about Jedi Survivor's design. I think that traversing Jedi Survivor's world is fun. It keeps a lot of what they did in Fallen Order when it comes to traversing the world, but brings it into less linear areas at times. There are still a lot of very linear areas within the different planets, but they're connected to a decently large open world area as a hub section. Then again, like I said, I've only experienced Kobo and a bit of Jeddah. Where Fallen Order's level design felt more linear, but with a bit of backtracking, Jedi Survivor feels like it's going more for a Metroidvania type approach to its worlds. It feels like there's going to be a lot of backtracking to previous worlds so that you can reach different areas where there are rumors or side quests at, or maybe new characters there. I am treating the different worlds as different levels and not just saying Jedi Survivor is an open world game. And that's how open world games normally are, because to me, an open world game takes place on a single map with instanced areas or dungeon sections for story stuff. I don't consider something like Destiny to be open world. Games I do consider open world are stuff like Hogwarts Legacy or The Division, like how they do their world. I do like the way Respawn approach their world design and how it's made, and how each of them do kind of look different, but it doesn't feel like an open world game to me. It feels like large areas with a lot of smaller side areas tacked on. Now that I've talked about the design, let's talk about the mechanics of Jedi Survivor's combat, because that is one of the areas that there is a major focus on. And I wish there was something more to Jedi Survivor's combat. I don't mean that the combat is bad, but what I do mean is that Jedi Survivor's combat is simple and effective. But it would be nice to have a bit more variety of techniques in it. The combat basically boils down to hit the attack button and parry attacks until you break the enemy's guard, and then attack enough to kill them. There are other attacks like your force powers or your force attack or throwing your lightsaber that you can use, but you have to stop your attacks in the middle of a combo to use those powers. It doesn't feel like it organically flows into those. It would have been more interesting to be able to organically incorporate the force powers into the combos with your lightsaber attack. It's kind of the same with parrying and dodging enemy attack. You can't cancel out of the animation of an attack to dodge or parry an enemy's attack. It is kind of a bland combat system because they didn't really do anything super interesting with it. To me, it feels kind of basic. Not saying basic is bad, but it would have been nice because you are a Jedi and you have these force powers and these different styles of lightsabers that you could use to kind of just spice up the combat. Another idea that I had that would have helped is being able to switch between stances in the middle of a combo with some limitations on it. Like, think of it this way. You're using the double-bladed lightsaber and you have the dual blade stance equipped. Say you go and throw your double-bladed saber out and then you switch over to the dual blade and you can use the force to break it apart and make it go either farther out or it goes to the side with the two different sabers. Doing something like that would have made it more interesting. Or if you're using the first stance that you get, which is like a one-handed stance, and you have the blaster and saber stance on, think of, oh, you're fighting with that one, but then you switch over real quick and you can shoot with the blaster right away. Or switching over fires a blaster shot. It would just make the combat all that more interesting if they built in some combos to switch between the different stances in like the middle of a combo. So like say you do like 5 swings with the one-handed saber, then you go and switch, you can switch over in the middle of the combo to fire like 2 blaster shot and be in the blaster and saber stance. It would just make it more interesting. Overall, I have still enjoyed my time with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Jedi Survivor's design and mechanics are well done, but they could have been given a bit more variety. I think for a sequel to Fallen Order, it improves a lot on the mechanics and design options, but it would have been nice to have a bit more variety because of the Star Wars setting. And if the game had been delayed by maybe a month or so, I think the performance issues could have been ironed out and the game would have launched in a far better state than it is even after its first patch, which was meant to address a lot of those performance issues. I don't think after that first patch it runs very well. I think it is still very low FPS and very low performance overall. I look forward to when they actually get all that ironed out and going back and playing the game to play through it at 60 plus FPS. But that's all I've really got to talk about when it comes to Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Maybe as I get farther in the game, I'll make another video talking about it. But after 10 hours, those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please use the Force to hit that like button and subscribe. If you're looking for more videos talking about games, here's a playlist of my 10-hour impressions and my latest video. And I hope you have a royal day.